All right, ready to jump in? We're taking a deep dive today into the world of power generation.
Sounds good.
We've got a fascinating report in front of us.
Okay.
Talen Energy Corporation's latest quarterly report. Their Form 10Q, freshly filed just last week,
Oh, wow.
covering the quarter ending September 30th, 2024. It's a dense one,
I bet.
packed with financials, legal battles,
Oh, wow.
and all those regulatory hurdles that always seem to pop up in this industry.
Right.
But that's what we're here for.
Yeah,
Break it all down,
absolutely.
make sense of it,
Yeah.
extract those valuable insights.
Love it.
So, what's really interesting about Talen Energy, they're kind of walking this line between two worlds.
So,
You've got the traditional power generation on one side.
right.
Think like those are big coal plants.
Yeah.
But then on the other side,
Mm.
they're pushing towards cleaner energy sources
Interesting.
and even diving into things like digital infrastructure.
Wow. That's fascinating. What's really striking about Talen is how they're embracing both of those sides.
Right.
It's like they're trying to bridge the gap between the old and the new.
So let's back up a bit for those who might not be familiar with them.
Sure.
Who is Talen Energy?
Okay, so in a nutshell,
Yeah.
Talen Energy, they're a major player in the U.S. power sector.
Okay.
They've got a really diverse portfolio of power generation facilities.
Gotcha.
It's a mix of everything, nuclear power plants,
Okay.
natural gas, and yeah, they even still have some coal plants in operation.
That's really interesting
Yeah.
that they have such a diverse energy mix.
Mm,
I mean, it seems like they're trying to hedge their bets.
right.
In this rapidly changing energy landscape.
Absolutely.
It's like, well, we'll do a bit of everything.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
see what sticks.
Exactly. And they're operating in some really key markets,
Okay.
like PJM,
Yeah.
which, manages the power grid for a huge chunk of the U.S.
How many people are we talking about?
We're talking 65 million people across 13 states,
Wow.
including some major cities, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., big population centers.
Okay.
And then there's WECC,
Yeah.
which covers much of the western U.S.,
So geographically speaking, they're all over the place,
very geographically diverse.
which I guess makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, helps manage risk.
Right.
Exactly.
But tap into different energy markets.
Exactly. Different regions have different needs.
Yeah.
Different regulations. It's a smart strategy.
Okay, so geographically speaking, they've got their fingers in a lot of pies.
Yeah.
But let's talk numbers.
Okay.
How did they actually perform this past quarter?
So, on the surface,
Yeah.
their financials, they look pretty good.
Okay.
They reported a net income of $168 million for the quarter, which is a huge jump from the $77 million loss they had during the same period last year.
I mean, that's a remarkable turnaround.
Yeah, it is. From a loss last year to a significant profit this year.
Right.
What were some of the key factors that contributed to this profit?
So a big driver was their strategic decision to sell off some assets. They unloaded their Texas generation portfolio.
Oh, okay.
It was known as the ERCOT sale.
Gotcha.
And they also parted ways with the Cumulus Data Campus.
And this resulted in?
This resulted in a pretty hefty gain,
Yeah.
$885 million.
So shedding some assets resulted in a big windfall.
Yeah, it did.
But how did getting rid of that Texas portfolio impact their overall revenue?
It definitely played a role in a decrease in their energy and other revenues,
Okay.
net of fuel and energy purchases.
Basically, that part of their business is smaller now?
Exactly. They
Right.
shrunk that part of their operations.
Makes sense. Now, I did notice another interesting line item in their report. A pretty significant increase
Okay.
in their nuclear decommissioning trust funds gain.
Right.
Can you shed some light on that?
Absolutely. This is where things get interesting.
Okay.
Declining interest rates. They're often seen as a bad thing for the economy.
Right.
Right. But they can actually benefit companies like Talen
Interesting.
have these large decommissioning obligations.
Okay.
Basically, their investments are doing well, and the lower interest rates actually work in their favor here.
So it's like a silver lining.
Yeah, it is.
In this time of economic uncertainty,
Right.
they're benefiting from this trend.
Mm-hmm.
That's causing concern for many others.
Yeah, exactly.
But, let's face it, the energy sector, it's not just about balance sheets
Right.
and investment gains.
Yeah.
There's this looming legal and regulatory landscape they have to navigate.
It's always there.
Always there. So what is Talen up against in that arena?
That's where things get really, really interesting.
Okay, give us the rundown.
All right.
What are some of the biggest threats on their radar?
So first up, we have those ongoing lawsuits stemming from Winter Storm Uri
Oh, yeah.
back in 2021. You remember that one?
Oh, how could I forget?
Wreaked havoc on the Texas power grid.
Yeah, rolling blackouts for days.
Yeah,
People without power. I mean, it was a major event.
absolutely.
And so, what, Talen's facing legal action because of their role in that?
Yeah, they are. And the Texas Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually currently deliberating on the issue.
Okay.
And, if the ruling doesn't go their way,
Yeah.
the financial consequences could be substantial.
Yeah, that's a lot of uncertainty hanging over them.
Right.
Anything else they're grappling with?
Well, then there's the issue with the Susquehanna ISA amendment,
Okay.
the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC.
AirC.
Yeah, they rejected Talen's proposal to decrease power supply to the grid from their Susquehanna nuclear plant.
And why do they want to decrease power supply?
Well, their intention was to free up energy
Okay.
to power a data center project they were developing with Amazon Web Services.
AWS.
Yeah, AWS. So, they were looking to kind of dive deeper into that tech world.
So it was a strategic move
Mm-hmm.
to expand into that whole digital infrastructure space.
Exactly.
But, they hit a regulatory roadblock.
A big one.
Yeah. What are the implications of this rejection by FERC?
Well, for starters, it kind of throws a wrench in their plans
Yeah.
for expanding their digital infrastructure footprint.
Right.
The AWS data center was a key part of that strategy.
Hmm.
It also, raises questions
Yeah.
about their ability to secure regulatory approval for future projects.
Which is crucial
absolutely crucial.
in this industry.
You got to have the regulators on your side.
So we've got legal woes over past events,
Right.
regulatory hurdles for future projects.
Yeah.
Anything else adding to the pressure cooker?
Oh, don't forget about those environmental regulations.
Right, of course.
Always looming. The EPA. They've got a whole host of rules that impact Talen,
Mm-hmm.
particularly those aimed at their coal-fired plants.
Okay.
One of the most significant being the EPA's coal combustion residuals rule.
Hmm.
It requires companies like Talen
Yeah.
to safely dispose of coal ash,
Oh,
which, it's a byproduct of burning coal,
right.
and it can be a real environmental hazard.
Yeah.
And dealing with it can be a very costly endeavor.
So they're dealing with lawsuits.
Yep.
Regulatory pushback. And the EPA breathing down their neck about their existing infrastructure.
Right.
Sounds like a tough spot to be in.
It definitely presents some challenges.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is to see how they're adapting and trying to position themselves for the future, despite all these obstacles.
So they're not just sitting back
No, not at all.
and taking it.
They're proactive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that adaptation then.
Okay, yeah.
What are some of the strategic moves they're making to navigate this complex energy transition?
All right, so let's dive into that. Well, one of the most notable things they've done is launch this share repurchase program.
Okay.
They've committed to buying back a big chunk of their own stock.
Interesting. What's the thinking behind that?
It kind of signals their confidence in their own future,
Yeah.
Like they're saying, we think we're going to be okay. We're betting on ourselves here.
Doubling down on their own potential.
Yeah, exactly.
So share buybacks, what other moves are they making?
They're also making some strategic acquisitions,
Okay.
trying to solidify their position in some of these newer markets.
Hmm.
For example, they acquired the remaining 25% equity interest in Nautilus,
Okay.
which brings their ownership to a full 100%.
Nautilus. Remind me, what is that?
That's their platform for Bitcoin mining operations.
Oh, right. Bitcoin.
Yeah. Remember when that was like this fringe concept?
Yeah.
And now it's like this major force in the financial world.
It's crazy how things change so quickly.
I know, right?
It's become mainstream.
Yeah, and Talen is clearly making a play to capitalize on that whole thing.
Smart.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating phenomenon, this rise of cryptocurrency.
It really is. I remember when people thought it was a fad.
I know, me too, and now look at it.
Yeah. So what do you think has driven this rapid adoption?
I think it's a lot of things.
Yeah.
You got the allure of decentralized finance, the potential for big returns,
Right.
and I think just increasing acceptance by mainstream institutions is a big part of it too.
Yeah, more and more companies are getting on board.
Exactly. It's becoming more legitimate.
Yeah, so Talen's investment in Nautilus shows they're not afraid to take a risk.
Definitely a calculated risk, though.
Oh, of course, but still, it's a bold move.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, Are they shifting their focus away from traditional energy?
Right. Like, are they moving more towards tech?
It's a good question.
It's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, and it's not just Bitcoin either.
What else?
They're also boosting their presence in the digital infrastructure space more broadly.
Okay.
They repurchased some non-controlling interests in Cumulus Digital Holdings,
Which is?
further solidifying their position in that market.
So we're seeing a pattern here.
What's that?
Share buybacks, Bitcoin, expanding digital infrastructure.
Right.
Sounds like they're trying to diversify.
For sure, they're recognizing that the energy landscape is changing,
Yeah.
and the winners are going to be the ones who can adapt.
Right, and who can innovate.
Absolutely.
But with all these investments and these strategic moves,
Yeah.
it begs the question,
What's that?
can they afford all this?
Right. Can they actually pull this off?
What's their financial health like, really?
That is the million-dollar question. Or in Talen's case, maybe the billion-dollar question.
Aha, good one.
Well, according to their report,
Yeah.
they have $1.348 billion in available liquidity.
Okay.
And they seem pretty confident that's going to be enough to meet their needs
Whoa.
for at least the next 12 months and beyond.
Okay, so that's a healthy chunk of change, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But it's not just about the money they have right now.
No, you're right.
There are these long-term financial obligations they have to think about.
Absolutely.
What are some of those?
Well, for example, they mention these outstanding surety bonds in their report.
Surety bonds. Remind me what those are again?
They act as financial guarantees. So essentially, it's a promise
Yep.
to cover potential costs, like related to things like environmental remediation or decommissioning those power plants.
Right, because those things can get really expensive.
Oh, yeah, very.
So those surety bonds represent a pretty big commitment.
Yeah, for sure.
Even as they're venturing into these new areas like Bitcoin mining and data centers.
It's a balancing act.
It really is. So they're managing those legacy obligations, but at the same time trying to capitalize on new opportunities.
Exactly. It's like they're trying to juggle two different worlds.
And it's a complex equation.
Oh, yeah. Lots of moving parts.
So we've got a company in transition,
Yeah.
making some pretty bold moves, facing some significant challenges,
Right.
and juggling a lot of different financial commitments.
It's a high wire act for sure.
It really is.
Yeah.
So what does all this mean for Talen Energy's future?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Where do they go from here?
It really is the big question.
Yeah. It does feel like they're walking a tightrope,
Totally.
balancing those old school energy operations with these new tech ventures. What do you think the most likely outcome is here?
That is the billion-dollar question, isn't it?
Huh. Yeah.
It really all comes down to which side wins out. Will they become this, agile, tech-focused company?
Yeah.
Or will all that legacy stuff, the regulatory hurdles, will that hold them back?
If you had to bet, where do you think their focus is going in the long run?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this industry is unpredictable.
Right.
But I think their investments in things like Bitcoin mining and data centers, that's got to tell you something.
Yeah.
That's where they see the future.
It's like they're hedging their bets across a bunch of different sectors to see which one really takes off.
Absolutely. It's a smart move.
Yes,
I mean, any industry, but especially one that's changing as fast as energy.
Yeah. This deep dive has really shown just how complex this energy transition is.
Oh, yeah. It's not just flipping a switch
That's right.
from coal to solar panels.
Yeah. There's so much more to it.
There are so many factors.
Financial pressures, legal battles,
Yeah.
regulatory changes,
Absolutely.
and then trying to balance those old operations with these new investments in technology.
It's a lot.
It is. And Talen's story, it's really a microcosm of the entire energy sector.
Yeah, I think so.
They're dealing with the same stuff that so many other companies are facing.
Yeah.
And, whether they succeed or fail,
Yeah.
it's going to have ripple effects throughout the whole industry.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder, what does all this mean for the average person?
Yeah.
Like, how is this going to impact our daily lives?
That's the ultimate question.
Yeah.
And I think you could do a whole other deep dive on that.
Oh, for sure. But I think it's safe to say that, the energy landscape,
Yeah.
it's going to look really different
Oh, yeah.
in the coming years.
Absolutely.
I think we can expect to see more renewables, more emphasis on energy efficiency,
Definitely.
and, technology is going to play a bigger and bigger role.
Oh, yeah. Technology is going to be key.
Yeah. And companies like Talen are right at the forefront of all this,
They're leading the charge.
trying to navigate these uncharted waters.
It's a whole new world.
It really is. It's a high-stakes game.
For sure.
There's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
But it's also a really exciting time to be in this sector.
Absolutely. So much potential.
Yeah. For innovation, for growth.
I'm excited to see what happens.
Me too. Well, this deep dive into Talen Energy's world, that's given us a
Yeah.
lot to think about.
Definitely.
Thanks for walking us through this.
My pleasure.
It's complicated.
It is.
It's fascinating.
Absolutely.
And to our listener, we hope this deep dive gave you some valuable insights
Yeah.
into not just Talen Energy, but, the whole energy sector.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complex story.
It is.
No easy answers,
Nope.
but that's what makes it so interesting.
Exactly.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, keep diving deep.
And thanks for listening.